You're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. The fight against corruption, which has become a national canker, cannot be left alone for government, politicians and those holding high offices. Leaders from various religious faiths, including the Christian Council of Ghana, Office of the National Chief Imam and National Catholic Bishop Conference at the national media launch of the Interfaith Anti-Corruption Campaign, talking about a new strategy to deal with corruption.
Father, we beg you, touch our lives and the lives of our leaders and people, so that we may all realize the evil of bribery and corruption.
That is the prayer for strength against bribery and corruption in Ghana by the Ghana Catholic bishops. The fight against corruption is getting a fresh momentum as interfaith religious organizations, in collaboration with the NCCE and Ghana Education Service, launched the Interfaith Anti-Corruption Campaign under the project I Shame Corruption. They hope the campaign will help shape the hearts, attitudes, and minds of the youth to end corruption in Ghana through the implementation of integrity clubs across basic schools in the country. Mr. Samuel Zan Aklogo, head of Human Development Department at the National Catholic Secretariat, explains the plan for the project.
The interfaith shaping hearts, attitudes, and mindset to end corruption in Ghana, I Shame Corruption in Ghana, will work in selected basic schools across the 10 regions of Ghana to target pupils and teachers with a co-curricular mentoring program towards reorienting their behavior pattern now and the future against corruption. The project's main vehicle would be the establishment of integrity clubs in all the participating schools.
Speaking at the launch, Chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education, Ms. Josephine Nkrumah, spoke on the need for the adoption of civic education in the Ghana Education Service curriculum for schools to educate the youth about corruption.
That we are advocating for a review of the curriculum that has in place a values system, so that we begin to teach values deliberately and intentionally. I believe everywhere we go now, people say, what happened to the book Courtesy for Boys and Girls? So there are snippets of information that seems to be in the system, including the current curriculum for citizenship and religious education. And all of these things, we need to look at it, and we've gathered the materials in-house, that is for NCC, to begin to look at it and find a way of restructuring it.
They lighted torches to officially launch the I Shame Corruption in Ghana project. Jacqueline Johnson-Quay, Joy News.
I've been joined in the studio by Samuel Zan Aklogo, who is Executive Secretary of Caritas Ghana and Head of Human Development Department at the National Catholic Secretariat. Sir, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.
You've done a lot of explanation there already, so we won't go too deeply into the explanation. But usually when it comes to the fight against corruption, it breeds a certain level of fatigue among people. It's like we've had over and over again. We've done things over and over again. We seem to be reaping the same results. Maybe I'm not measuring by the proper yardstick, but what most Ghanaians, including myself, look out in such talks is, what is the difference in this campaign? What is so different about this campaign that should give us hope that it will help the fight against corruption?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Basically, I can focus on what we want to do, as I explained.
Very well.
We think that clearly the issue of corruption or corruptible behavior or dishonesty borders very much on, you know, the behavior, the attitude, the mindset of people. And so that's why we want to tackle it at that level. And we're doing it not because we think that is the only way that can rid this country of corruption, but at least that can make a substantial contribution. Because the only way to shape behavior is really to, you know, to go through a process of socialization that can transform the way people think, the way people react, to things, and that's what we want to do.
You want to do. Does it include any special focus of sermons, for example, sermons in both the church, in both the church and the mosque, where people, because you see, lots of people have said that in Ghana, you're talking about majority of us being Christians. You talk about the rest being in some form of religious grouping, but you still find, and especially in Africa, you still find corruption being a major problem, which results in the death of other people, results in, you know, a lot of suffering for people. So does it include any special sermon strategy, you know, because you have the people in the churches and the mosques?
No, very much so. I think surely that's what religions do best. I mean, they try to win the hearts of people, their congregants, either in the mosque or in the churches. And we're using sermon broadly to include what the Muslims do at the mosque and also what the Christians do on the pulpit. So yes, we will do that. But it is important to come back to what I just said before, that this program is going to target the young people. And we're starting at the basic school level with a kind of systematic socialization mentoring program that we're hoping that it will influence the behavior of the children. But we will build into it other strands, for example, possibilities for those children also involving themselves in some outreach programs using, for instance, I think the media has a critical role, community radio, but also interaction among their peers with the possibility of peer influence. Also, in this program, we hope religious leaders will plan it purposefully, that some carefully selected religious leaders with integrity would periodically visit the schools and interact with the integrity clubs at that level, all with the view to, you know, kind of influencing them. Having done that, they will also add it to their normal sermons in churches and mosques.
It appears to me there's been an upsurge, not just me, to a lot of people, an upsurge of criticism against spiritual people or against pastors or against, well, I haven't heard any about imams like quite openly, but against pastors, leaders of church, etc., about their behavior, about what they have done or what they have said. How do you think that could be an obstacle to you or to this coalition achieving the aims that you set for yourself?
To the contrary, I think that would rather be a feather in what we're doing. Let me remind you, those who are very critical of misbehavior of pastors, religious leaders, are the religious leaders themselves. I had the opportunity of sitting in a meeting of the Catholic Bishops' Conference and the leadership of the Christian Council. Maybe you read their statement.
Yes,
and
I
clearly,
did.
They spoke out against, you know, practices, you know, behaviors that are clearly unbecoming or untoward of religious leaders. In fact, they came close to saying that those who are involved in this, they don't even want to call them religious leaders. I mean, they are self-styled. So that's what I would say. Yes. I think that we are part of society. Religious leaders are part of society to the extent that they have a critical role to influence society based on their own lifestyles. But yes, they also have to look within themselves.
I see. What are the timelines you set for yourself? Are there any timelines?
Yes, for this project, we're piloting for 2 years, and we're hoping that within the 2 years, we should be able to have some tangible outcomes in terms of the number of pupils we have reached directly, disaggregated in data, both girls and boys, and then those we have been able to reach indirectly through other programs, media programs, and also in terms of building partnership relations with the NCCE and the GES. And very quickly, you heard the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education. Right. She said that this comes very timely because they are already advocating how this can be, you know, values, ethics, you know, behavior, modeling behavior can be integrated into school curriculum. You don't do that without having a model. I am hoping that our effort may produce a model that we can say, if this works, why don't you just mainstream it within the mainstream national institutions for the formation of children.
So you call this more like a pilot, and hopefully
yes,
it gets
a
bigger.
2-year pilot,
and
yes,
then a 2-year pilot.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, sounds good to me. If you have any final words, we can use that, and then we'll wrap up our conversation.
I want to thank you, but I want to say out there that this task is not a task for only selected people. It's a task for all of us, beginning with interrogation of our own lifestyle. And if we all say, like our acronym, shame corruption, personal attestation, that will be the beginning. Let me say it and act, you say it and act, and let those out there, every individual say it and act, and we will make a difference.
I believe so. I believe this should go a long way to help the situation. So I shame corruption. That's supposed to be like a hashtag, right?
Yes.
You're employing social media to get this out?
Yes, actually it's Interfaith Shaping Hearts, Attitudes and Mindset to End Corruption.
I shame corruption.
I shame corruption.
Well, every now and then, if you're walking about, you want to remind yourself that you're standing up against corruption, and you want to say that I shame corruption. And like he's saying, if you say it, you begin to think it, and then you begin to act it, and hopefully will reduce corruption, if not eliminate it completely. So thank you so much for coming to the studio. Samuel Zan Agkologo is Executive Secretary of Caritas. He's also Head of Human Development Department of the National Catholic Secretariat.